Next week in Emmerdale could be one of the heaviest stretches of storytelling in recent memory, as several characters are pushed right to their limits. Some choose to lie to protect the people they love, some willingly place themselves in legal danger, while others quietly manipulate everything from the shadows as if losing control for even a moment would cost them everything. What stands out most is that the harder they try to save one another, the deeper they are dragged into trouble. The most intense situation first centers on Bear. During questioning, he is repeatedly pressed by D.S. Walsh, who keeps pushing the theory that his wrestling experience is what gave him the knowledge to kill Ray. That provocation clearly hits Bear at the edge of his endurance. He no longer reacts like someone trying to defend himself, but like a man willing to carry the whole burden, so Paddy's name will not be pulled down with his. Bear claiming that he deliberately killed Ray is not just a false confession, but a desperate act from someone who believes sacrificing himself is the only way to protect his family. Yet that very moment makes everything even more dangerous, because a confession like that could lock away his future with a very severe sentence. It is precisely because Paddy and Dylan understand that Bear is destroying himself to shield everyone else that they make the most painful decision of all, to hand themselves in. Both of them know exactly what Bear endured during those months of captivity on the farm, so they can no longer stay silent and let him carry the consequences alone. This choice does not feel heroic, but more like surrendering to their conscience. The final hug between Mandy and Paddy at the police station reception says enough to show that everyone knows this is no longer something simple. And that proves true when the nightmare continues, as Paddy and Dylan are told they will be charged with perverting the course of justice. At that point, sacrifice is no longer a symbol of family loyalty, but a very real price that has to be paid. The news leaves the whole family devastated. No one knows whether Paddy and Dylan will be granted bail, so those around them can only cling to whatever hope is left. They need a witness who can confirm that Ray intended to kill Dylan, and Laurel becomes the name people think of most, because she was the last other person to see Ray alive. That makes the upcoming storyline especially sensitive, because if Laurel speaks up, her testimony could create a major turning point. But if she hesitates or refuses to get involved, Paddy and Dylan will almost lose their most important chance of easing the situation. As the court date draws closer, April is also forced to watch Dylan sink into an even worse state. Guilt is eating away at him from the inside, and this still does not feel like rock bottom. The quieter Dylan becomes, the more it feels as though he is slowly accepting that he is the reason everything has fallen apart. In another strand of the story, Graham begins taking his psychological game to a new level when he realizes Kim is no longer softening toward him. Unable to influence Kim directly, he shifts his attention to Joe, as though he understands perfectly well that if he wants to shake Kim, he first has to damage the relationships around her. This is not just about planting doubt, but about manipulating things step by step so that Joe may gradually begin to see Kim differently. If Graham succeeds, Joe could easily become trapped in confusion between the person he once trusted and the ideas now being fed into his mind. Once suspicion takes root, that relationship may never feel whole again. Jacob, meanwhile, is facing a very different kind of pressure, but no less heavy. During his supervised placement with Dr. Todd, he struggles under the strain, and then the hardest blow comes afterward in the feedback. Dr. Todd's harsh criticism does not just leave Jacob disappointed, but could also make him start doubting his own ability. For someone still trying to prove he is good enough, that kind of cold criticism rarely motivates right away. Instead, it tends to damage confidence first. If Jacob has no one to pull him out of this sense of failure, he may continue stumbling for quite some time. At the same time, Kerry and Jai's relationship is no longer as discreet as they think. Rumors begin spreading throughout the village, and Eric Pollard quickly senses that something is not right. Once Pollard becomes suspicious, he almost never stops at mere guesswork. The fact that he follows the trail and is likely to uncover clear proof soon suggests that Kerry and Jai's relationship may be dragged into the open in a way neither of them wants. The real question is not only what Pollard knows, but what he intends to do with that knowledge. Whether he keeps it to bargain with later, watches quietly for a bit longer, or reveals it at exactly the right moment to make everything explode, any of those possibilities would be enough to throw Jai and Kerry into chaos. Finally, there is Cain. After the shock of his cancer diagnosis, he should be focusing all of his energy on his health and his family. Yet Cain still becomes caught up in the search for new farmland. That says a lot about how he responds in the way he always has. Instead of sitting with his fear and confronting it, he throws himself into solving another problem so he does not fall apart. While Isaac is terrified that his father might die, Cain chooses busyness as a way of avoiding his real emotions. That contrast could make the coming scenes between father and son especially emotional, because Isaac needs reassurance, while Cain may not yet be ready to speak openly about his own fear. Taken as a whole, next week in Emmerdale is not just about shocking events, but about decisions made under extreme pressure. Bear chooses to take the blame, Paddy and Dylan choose sacrifice. Dylan sinks deeper into guilt, Graham accelerates his manipulation, and Cain tries to bury his fear through action. Each of them is fighting to hold on to what matters most. Yet the harder they cling, the more everything seems at risk of slipping out of reach.